Good day. We're going to talk about shoulder cuts, unsightly shoulder cutting happening either in a dual fixture, three-sided job, or on a base fixture. Either one of those fixtures can have this problem appear in your models. Here's one coming down on shank. Here's the crown up here. You're getting a little bit of a cut here and here. This is from the roughing pass cut. This is from the final pass cut. Here's another one where we're getting some cutting down inside the bezel area that we don't want to have happen. Here you can see more of the same kind of cutting going on here on a very simple band. Last but not least, we're getting some other cuts here that we don't want to have happen. So the question is how to fix that. Well, here's a good example. This is a model that's from the Gem Vision sales kit. We can see that if we're going to mill down from the top, we're going to have the same basic problem where we can hack into this. Well, what I do to prevent that is I make a custom border. Now, you could outline this piece, the crown exactly. There's two ways to do it. You could do a circle on the inside, F4. Let's go ahead and do it in something nice and bright like that. You could do it on F4 and come out right to the edge of the prongs, or even overlap the tops of the prongs, and that'd be okay. The problem is when you do that, and I'll bring this up where we can see it. The problem is when you do that, you're still going to have this little bit of an area that the mill is going to try to cut down into, and in this case it's going to come all the way out to that edge and it's going to clip that shoulder, and you're going to get the same kind of tick marking. So instead of using that, what I came up with for this particular model is something that looks like this. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. Here we've got one that comes all the way around, and if I take it back to wireframe, you'll see it. The other thing I like to do on all of my custom borders is I like to raise them up by holding down on the shift key. That lets it come straight up, and now I can see where it's going to work its way around on my model. And you can see from this, and I'll go ahead and hit back to plastic. You can see from this it's going to get in here, but it's not going to come down. It's going to come down just barely on that shoulder. And if I was really worried about that, I could even go so far as to turn off all this stuff, go to my layer like that, and I would come here and I would make a line out like this. Now that's way down at the bottom again, so let's just turn all that stuff off. There it is. And what I would do is send this piece back down to the bottom using project to C-plane, delete the input. Then I would take that little piece and I would mirror it with my best friend F4, and I would mirror it again, the pair of them, to the opposite side like that. And then I would come in here with my trim tool and I would go clip, 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 hit my enter key, and then I would join those together. For it to be an official usable custom border, it has to be a closed curve. So now if I bring my ring back, you can see I'm going to work all the way around, but I'm not going to get anywhere else. Now, having done that, what's the first thing we do? Well, we toss it in a job bag. Everybody knows that trick. So we would open up our job bags, grab our model, toss it in there like that. That way we don't lose it if the power goes out or something else happens. From here, we would go to our builder. Revo C, grab the ring. It does have a ring rail, it's a valid ring rail. It will read that. And so we would either be doing a dual fixture, three-sided, and it could have a hub. It could be hollowed. It could just knock the center out, or we disregard the center entirely and mill everything. All four of those options will behave the same way. I'm going to stick with the easiest one. The same holds true for the base fixture. The base fixture would do exactly the same thing. We can do this in any of those. I'm just going to stick with the three-sided. We go next, it picks out a wax. We're going to do three-sided. It would also apply to a five-sided. Two-sided, no, because we're not going to do a 90-degree cut with a horizontal cutter, so that would never happen. That scarring would never happen. Come in here like this. We're going to cut out our edge curve. That's fine. We don't do anything there. Cut out the center. This is just going to make a little beer keg cut, and it'll drop out. And then we have the three parts. Now the left and the right cuts at 0 and at 180. That's the 0 cut. This is the hang on. Here's the 180 cut. So at the 0 and the 180 cut, you're going to come in and you're going to define the ring from both sides. We're all pretty much used to seeing that. And there's nothing that we want to do there. However, up here on the 90-degree cut down from the top, there are a couple of things that we want to do. You want to get all the way through the ring. And that's where this defaults. If this was a little delicate, wispy shank instead of built up with a gallery here, then you would want to hit go and move your cutter tip so that you get the depth that you want. We're going to go right there and hit enter. The second thing you want to do is come in here, toolpath, and make sure it's not in roughing. That's going to give you 1 cut, 2 cuts, waste of time. You want to be in negative only. Third thing, turn off automatic borders by going in and picking our manual border, and we've got to go find that guy. He happens to be down here. The mill doesn't care because as far as the mill is concerned, it's looking straight down and the world is flat. Now, by doing that, you're not going to cut out here on the shoulders at all. And so what I'm going to do now is generate the toolpath and show you why that worked. Alright, we have toolpaths. Let's take a look. Load up in perspective, and let's work our way down. Talk about this. Here's our cutout curve. This is going to knock excess wax off the outside. That's why we do not need a roughing pass, because we're not cutting through wax thicker than the length of our cutter. We only need to do that when we're penetrating really deep blocks of wax. Here's our little beer keg cut. Zip, zip, and that's actually going to push out. And at this point, the mill will stop and ask you to remove both the split piece of wax off the outside and the little beer keg. Hopefully they will have fallen away. Sometimes the swerf holds them in place. You just take them out, hit go. Then the mill is going to do part 1. And here is where we can see that, oh my gosh, it's still going to drape around it. It didn't like our border that much. So you might want to play with that. This is a situation where it did not like that particular cut. So we might want to change this to a circle type thing. Also notice that we cut down 2 but no deeper than the ring rail plus, if I go into options, here's protect finger rail, and that's basically where it's going to cut to. You can make it go deeper, even though the cut depth was set deeper. You can see how it's starting to wrap around the finger rail. You can go deeper by going in here where it says more options and turning off protect finger rail, and that will let you go deeper. I will show you that now. And there it is processed, and now it's going down to the 7.47 millimeter cut depth that we specified the first time. Before that, it was going down to 2/10 deeper than the ring rail, which is the default that it's normally set for. But you can force it deeper by turning off protect finger rail. I'm going to go back into matrix, and you see I changed protection and it automatically got rid of my toolpath. I'm going to go back into matrix and create a second toolpath, or I'm sorry, a second custom border that should get rid of that. And the easiest way to do it is just to stop the movie, jump out, and come back. Okay, we're back, and I've made a different border shaped like that. I'm going to go ahead and drag that up here where we can see it. And you can see how now it just comes in and hits the high, or the center highest point of that. Let's see how that works, see if it likes it. We'll go ahead and change that border to this one. By the way, whatever angle you have your model set at in perspective, when you capture a set of curves or in detail, that's the way it will appear in this window. And let's go ahead and change our cut depth again. We'll go ahead and drag it down deeper, and we will, turn off protect finger and make that toolpath. Alright, here's the reason why you should always check your toolpaths before you commit to doing this, because it does not like that bend in, and therefore we're going to get some scarring on our shoulder. The way around that is to do 2 steps here. I'm going to add a second flat on dual 3-sided. It's going to come as part 4. I'm going to move that up to be part 2. Part 1 we're going to treat like a roughing pass, and to do that I'm going to take this border and just get rid of it. Goodbye. I'm going to type the word circle, and that gives me the ability to draw a circle from F4. And we're going to come out here around the top of our model. Now see, these faces here on the prongs would get cut from the outside, so they're not necessary to be done from the top down. So there's my first border, and we're going to put that border in here like that. And then we're going to change our depth so it does not come down any deeper than our shoulder. So the toolpath depth right there is going to get changed. We're going to drag it up right there. Can't go any deeper. Not going to cut any deeper than that. That's great. Then step 2, first thing we got to do is check our cut angle, and you're going to see the cut angle is wrong. So we're going to rotate that because it always comes in at 0. We want to bring it up to 90. I did that by holding down the shift key. Hit enter. Cut depth is deeper than it needs to be, and we could have adjusted it right then and there if we wanted to. We can adjust it in either one. We'll go, and we'll drag that up like that. Enter. And now we need a new border. Well, we don't have one, so we're going to come back up here and type circle again. F4 again, and this time we're going to go all the way down like that. We're going to stay off of our shoulder, and we lost it. It's down here. You'll see that we actually have 2 curves down there. It's this smaller curve now, so we'll go ahead and do borders manual, turn on manual, highlight that, throw that in there. Now let's make a toolpath to see what we've got. Alright, let's blow up perspective and take a look at our model. And we can see everything that's still going on. It's all the same, just like we had before. We have our cutout edge curve. Then we cut out our center little beer keg, and the mill stops asks us to dispose of the wax. Then we come down here and we do subpart 1, and you can see that subpart 1 does not get down any further on my shoulder than I wanted it to. It's going to just clean that up beautiful. It's going to get a good start on the inside and rough all that out. Now that we've done that, we go to subpart 2, and you can see subpart 2 is going to drape all the way down in there, get all the way through, and because we turned off protect finger rail, it comes all the way through the bottom of our ring and cleans it up very, very nicely. An interesting option that you have at this point is anytime you're working with perfectly circular borders that are centered on F4, you have another option for your cutting, and that is to come back into toolpath negative and change it to a spiral. Now spiral is slow, but it also gives you the most accurate finish you'll ever see on a round object. So if I come in here and change both of these to spiral, what I would do normally, since this is a roughing pass and it's almost all of it's going to get covered again, I would leave this in a normal negative cut. But the finish pass, which is all this detail work down inside that you still want to have all nice and pretty, I would make that a spiral. This guy down here. And let's make the path and I'll show you why. Okay, we are back. Let's go back up here. We've done all those parts. Nothing's changed up here. There is the same cut to establish the roughing out of the major area down to the first girdle. And here is the second part. And if I zoom in looking down and I turn off my STL, you can see that this is a perfect spiral. It starts at the center and just works its way out ever so sweetly. There are no change of direction marks whatsoever. Those bands that you see are from the video card. That does not show up in the wax. And so when I turn on the model and we come out back to perspective, you can see that it just drapes ever so sweetly over the entire model. It does just a beautiful, beautiful job of cutting that all out. Now if you want to come in at different angles, say with the dual fixture, you can come in at 5 angles or more. You can start cutting at angles on this model. You can do all kinds of cleanup work, but the shoulders of the shank do not carry any kind of cutting from the horizontal cutter job. This is the same thing, does exactly the same thing on base fixture, and you can even use this if you were milling this in a rotary pass. You can in fact constrain that, cut out that bezel first, and then come back and do a full rotary. So there you are. That's how to get rid of those unsightly shoulder scars.